Yo, I gotta send a special shout out to mother flipping, pill popping, Polly. I got to. I have no choice. I have to. Pill popping Polly. I appreciate you. Thank you for the super thanks. You guys are the best. Phenomenal. Thank you so much. You see Polly in the comments. Say what's up. Give him a hug. High five. Comment under a post. Engage. Love the community. And I appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed this next video. So recently, we saw two of John's interviews. We did a then and now look at John Ramsey on Anderson Cooper, probably about 12 years ago. And then, one currently state that he did, I think earlier this month or last month in January. And saying that I still don't have any updates on the case. I don't know. It's looking promising as I want to talk to the Boulder PD about everything that is going on with the case. I'm not really up to date on anything with the case now. But about 12 years ago, he was mentioning something to the effect of, hey, there's this bag, I don't know where that came from. It just ended up in our house. There's this palm print on the door that we're, in the basement that we frequently go in. Don't know where that came from. It's probably one of the workers. There's some boots. Don't know where those boots came from, or that boot print. Don't know where that came from. There's a bat outside. Don't know where that bat came from. This house that I live in. Don't know how this house got here on this lot. I don't even know how these covers got under me or got on top of me, and I don't know how my favorite pillow from Atlanta got here. And I'm being facetious, but that's kind of what it's starting to sound like. It's the drugs. they ain't mine. They were in your pocket and they just got here. Well, they ain't mine. I don't know who they belong to. They got your palm prints all over it. They ain't mine. Anyways, so it got me to thinking about, and as many of you mentioned, some of those things just weren't true. And I ran across this video, and I'll get to it in a second, of this creator who was kind of talking about, she did some research on the high-tech boots and the boot print. And I remember reading somewhere where they said, oh, that boot print, may have come from people who worked who were working downstairs. And gentleman by the name, as I told you guys, Matt, MB Inc. had sent over some information on sort of the building and construction of the home. And I thought they put they were trying to put an elevator in, but from John's book, he was saying that they were taking it out. And so that was the part about the elevator shaft that I saw that brought clarification. Something about a fence and just, water heaters and third floor remodeling, kitchen remodeling, all such as that. And so anyways, that brings me to say that there is a lot of activity in the basement, though. There's a lot of stuff that needed to be done in the basement. And so it seems that when the Ramseys got there, I think in 91 and then in 92, they got to work. They started doing a lot of stuff to the house to remodel and everything. And so the boots were sort of blamed on a contractor who had come through. And, that would have been linked to, what's the guy's last name? Rose, possibly. Gentleman by the name of Rose, I think was his last name, who was contracting, doing that work, when I looked up some of the information to kind of corroborate with what Matt had sent me. So shout out to Matt again for that information. But anyways, the reason why I brought you here today is to kind of tie down some loose ends and to continue to work to nail down some loose ends. Starting with high-tech boots and the footprint that apparently belonged to the intruder. So the article Christopher Anderson, Ramsey's give police high-tech boots, such as that. I've highlighted some portions, and then we're going to jump into the video that the young lady did such an awesome job on. So this was updated on November 24, 2024, but 7:41 a.m. But I think obviously this is an older article closer to the time. Starts off by saying, among information John and Patsy Ramsey provided to police this month are a pair of high-tech boots obtained by one of the couple's private investigators. Colorado Springs private detective Ollie Gray said Wednesday he believes the size 8.5 leather and nylon boots could be the ones that JonBenét's killer wore inside the Ramsey home where the little girl was found dead. So here we have you saying we don't have no high-tech boots that belong to us. We ain't got nothing to do with no high-tech boots. I sound annoyed because I am annoyed. Because little stuff, you know what I mean? Little stuff like, the pineapple. I don't know how that pineapple got there. It just popped up on the table, Patsy. It's pineapple. Why can't you take responsibility and accountability for some pineapple? It's just pineapple. Like meaningless stuff that's around the house. You know what I mean? Like that they won't take credit for. Pineapple and some tea. Were you hungry? It's okay to be hungry. No, I don't ever get hungry. Little stuff like that. And so we get to this, there is a bowl of pineapple on my table right now. However, the killer is a nice guy. You should meet him someday. He, wanted to eat some pineapple. He was hungry. In the middle of the night, he was hungry. He wanted some tea. I mean, he even knew. He even knew. Who is this? Who is this killer? He even knew where the tea bags were. He had my fingerprints on a piece of paper ready to frame me. And he also had Burke's fingerprints on a piece of paper ready to frame me. Come on. Where did he find the tea bag? See, this is what I'm saying. There's too many little things like, the intruder could have done this. It's too many this is low probability. There's too many things that are like low probability. Man, it's low probability that killer would have done that. That intruder would have done that. It's low probability. And knowing where the tea bags were, what was he doing? So when Burke came downstairs after everyone went to sleep, how long did Burke stay and where was Burke at? Because at some point, and Burke said he didn't see anything, but at as long, this would have taken more than 30 minutes or so. This would have been the work that they estimated the writing of the ransom note took about 30 minutes. And so if JonBenét was killed somewhere between 12 and 2 and Burke went to bed and he got back up, Burke probably stayed up for about 45 minutes. You know what I mean? If he went to bed at 9:30, and I'm just using their timeline, even though it's a lie, I'm using John's timeline. If he went to bed at 9:30 and woke back up after John, he probably stayed in bed for about 15 minutes waiting for John to really go to sleep. And if that's the case, then Burke probably was smart enough or intelligent enough. If we're giving him credit for that, he was probably intelligent enough to creep up the third floor stairs and look over to see, because you don't just go downstairs. I mean, it's an open concept. So, John or Patsy could sneak down the stairs at any given moment. No child is just going to run downstairs in like the dead of night without checking if their parents are getting up or not. When I used to sneak up and run downstairs, my parents had a bedroom downstairs. When I used to, and I already told you guys about how I would sneak up and play the video games, but that was upstairs. But downstairs, we had the computer downstairs. And so when my parents would go to sleep, there were certain things that you would hear. and I would hear them lock the door. I would hear the door. It made a sound like cling. So you would hear that, and you would go downstairs and like look around. And so it was dark, and so you're on the computer kind of doing some online shopping or whatever, that I was not supposed to be doing. And if somebody was coming out, you'd keep it quiet so that you would hear ding. Oh, dad must be coming out or something like that, or mom must be coming out or something like that. Oh man, I gotta get up and I gotta go. So you know what I'm saying. So you always had that plan. So I expect Burke to have done nothing any different than check for his parents. But by the time he gets downstairs, it's probably about, John goes upstairs. He's like, "Oh, I am beat. I got to get in my clothes." It's 9:15. So by the time Burke, or I'm sorry, 9:45, and he gets to sleep. So by the time Burke actually is able to get downstairs, it's probably about 10 o'clock. And so Burke is probably down there, with the lights off. He has to be, because he's not supposed to be down there. So if he's down there, he's got a flashlight. He has to, because he cannot be down there with the lights on. He has to be with the flashlight. So he's down there sneaking with the flashlight, or whatever. That's where he's going to get it from. He's sneaking with the flashlight, and he's sitting there putting whatever he's doing together with the flashlight on. That has to happen. In that event, the killer, who knows that the glass is broken, comes through. Now this is at about, Burke is up at 10:30 at this point. When does the killer come? Right? So the killer has to come between, and Burke is down there for about 45 minutes, I'm assuming. The killer has to come, he would have to come maybe at like, Burke's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm tired. We do have to get up in the morning." So then the killer has to come after at about 11. You know what I mean? And so he has a space of really 11, 12 to 1, in 2 hours, I would say, because JonBenét had to be killed before 1 o'clock for the rigor mortis count. So somewhere between 11 and 1, JonBenét was killed. Burke is downstairs. He goes upstairs. It's 11 p.m. Killer comes in. Now, all the things the killer has to do. There was a backpack found in John Andrews' room. This killer, for some odd reason, goes to John Andrews' room and leaves his backpack. I don't know what he was doing in there. Come on, man. Like, why would he be up there? So he goes up, he gets JonBenét. Maybe waiting for JonBenét, he set up camp in John Andrews' room, waiting, So he set up camp, and he brought a backpack, apparently, but he left it in there. You know what I mean? He's like, "Dang, I forgot my backpack." And he also came with his high-tech boots. But what he didn't bring, though, was the ransom note. So he sits down and he writes the ransom note, he writes out the ransom note. JonBenét is sound asleep in the bed, and it takes him 30 minutes to write out that ransom note after JonBenét is killed. So at the earliest, if JonBenét is killed somewhere prior to 1, let me see. So it takes rigor mortis about 2 hours to start working after death. About 2 hours after death, I think is what they're saying. And so in this case, it's taking that 2 hours. But the killer has, whatever he's done, he's an innocent guy. He's a nice guy. He actually, apparently, it's really weird though, because why would he subdue her with a stun gun to wake her up and give her pineapples? That does not make sense, because he subdued her, So he goes and gets her out of the bed. Apparently she wakes up and she's like, "Oh, I don't know who you are. Who are you?" Whoever it is, the person who knew them or not, she didn't like them or something like that is what we're being led to believe. They intruded, at any rate. So they pick her up. She's like, "Oh, you're not my dad." And she's thinking about screaming and hollering, and then they boom, go to sleep with the stun gun. and takes her downstairs. But while they get downstairs, she says, "I'm hungry." And so, and this is probably like 11:10. You know, this is like 11:05, 11:10 by the time they get downstairs. And then she says, "I'm hungry." So he stops to take the time to get pineapple and cut up the pineapple. I don't know if the pineapple was already made or was in a can or what have you, but you know, this person and JonBenét apparently worked together to go find the pantry. And JonBenét says, here's my favorite thing. It has to be that. Here's my favorite thing of pineapples. Okay, well, let's pop it open. And then he says, "Where are your bowls?" And so, "Oh, you know the place. The bowls are here." And so goes and gets the bowls. And so now this has, so let's switch over. This has to be a person that they know, because the person is moving through the house. I know JonBenét likes tea. I know JonBenét likes pineapples. And so JonBenét is going and getting these pineapples. And so he sits her down and says, "Hey, you hungry, kid?" And says, "Yeah, I could eat." So JonBenét sits down and she's eating these pineapples. Eats one, and he says, "You know what? We ain't got time for that. It's actually, we got to go. You know, time's getting." And so at this point, it's probably about 11:45. It's probably about 11:45. Okay. So timeline's getting tight. About 11:30, 11:45. Let's split the difference. Let's call it 11:40. It's 11:40. Hey, JonBenét, we played around too much by the time we got you downstairs. So I got you down at 11:05. We walked around, said, and then you woke up and I allowed you to be awake. And I said, and you said you were hungry. So at 11:05, I said, "Well, what do you want to eat?" "I don't know. So let's say at about 11:05 or 11:10, they decided on something. She grabs it. He says, I know where the bowls are," and goes and gets a bowl, gets it down, opens the, really quickly. And opens it really quickly, opens the pineapples really quickly. And then says, "Okay, here's your pineapples." Boom. She's eating and she eats one. Whatever she's doing, she's playing around too much because she can only get one in. She eats just one, and that is very peculiar. She just gets one in. So it almost makes it feel like these pineapples are not for her, because if the pineapples were for her, she would have eaten a lot. She would have been sitting there stuffing her face, but she only ate one and got away with that. Which makes me wonder if the garrote was already made, or the string was already made previously. Not at the time that JonBenét was killed, but it was made previously, is what I wonder. And then it was used at a later time. Not touching on any theories of SA, of why that would be used, but definitely have reviewed some of the stuff you guys have sent me on the essay, and just taking some notes on it. But JonBenét eats one, says, "Kid, it's time to go." They go downstairs. JonBenét is apparently kicking and screaming, so he hits her with the stun gun again, maybe, I don't know. Takes her downstairs. She said, "You're not my dad. I don't think I should be going with you. I don't want to go through that window." And so apparently this person tries to use the garrote on her and to drag her to that. And so something they do makes her scream, maybe the stun gun. And because of that, she scares them. And then that's when they pick up something and they have to do away with her. But then after they do away with her, the fight ensues. They get up at about 11:15, 11:20. Let's say 11:20 from the table. "Kid, it's time to go. Don't have time for this." 11:20, and they go downstairs. And so they're kind of going back and forth downstairs. and say it's about 11:30 now to where everything happens and stuff like that. And, you know, because he's going to take his time. So he has an original intent for SA. And so obviously he's going to stop, slow down, and take his time. How unfortunate that sounds. He's going to stop, slow down, and that's what he's going to do. And then he's going to apply the garrote is what they're essentially saying. So in doing that, he would then, it's probably about 11:35, 11:40 at this time. And he's using the garrote because her undergarments were cut. And not only were they cut, if you go back and look at the picture, it was cut, like a little piece was cut and moved to the side. If you go back and look at the picture, not only was it cut, but it was cut and moved to the side as if, so they weren't, I'm saying, so they weren't ripped. Somebody wasn't being an animal about it and just saying, I have to get to this. They took their time. So whatever they had was able to, they cut a circle. You see what I'm saying? Like the attention to detail, they cut a circle. Cut a circle and set it to the side. So this person, again, is taking their time. They're not rushing. Which, again, JonBenét would be at ease at this point. You know, she's 6. She doesn't know what's happening. So she's like, okay, don't know what you're doing. But so the gentleman, whoever this is, who knows her, you know, is doing his thing. And he apparently makes a mistake and says, you know what, let's whatever he does, he makes a mistake. She screams, but by this time she screams, it's like 11:45, 11:50. 11:45, she screams. Apparently he got scared and ran away is what he probably would have done, and waited and saw nobody coming down. Waited and saw nobody's coming down. So he probably waits for about 5-10 minutes just to make sure nobody's coming. And so at that point, it's about 11:55, almost 12. Whatever he's done, you know, and probably right there, he like, maybe he has a bat and he's like poking her like, hey, go over there. And so when she screams, he uses the bat. And so she's laying there dying, actually. She's laying there dying, actually. And he just gets up and leaves everything as it is. And there's no way that her hands were tied above her head originally. There's no way her hands were tied above her head originally, because she either had to do this to claw, because there was just, you know, the DNA was degraded under her fingernails. So she either had to do this to claw and try to get the cord, and that's the dead skin that's under her fingernails, or she had to be clawing. If her hands were to the side, tied to the side, she had to be clawing on the carpet. If her hands were tied, she had to be clawing on something, because if her hands were tied, let me see, if her hands were tied like this, she had to be clawing on her stomach or something like that. But if her hands were like up like this, she can't claw at anything. She can't there would be nothing under her fingernails because she can't get to anything. You know what I mean? She can't claw at anything. So I guess if she needed to, she could reach up and do whatever to this person. But if that was the case, then there would have been legitimate DNA under her fingernails and we would have had something. But, you know, she went like this and she was trying to do this. So whatever happened, her hands were not up here. They were down to the side, able to claw, or they were never tied. You know, the tying of the hands came later. That was the stage. Cord on the neck was there, but the hands were not tied. That would not be the case. So it's 11:45, 11:55. He comes out to check and says nobody's coming. So now I got to make it look like it's an accident. I had nothing to do with it. And so from 11:55 to about 12:30, but the scream came after. The scream came between 12 and 2. So whatever he did carried on into 12. And shortly after. And then, so the death had to happen between 12 and 1 because the scream came after 12, but she was in rigor mortis, full rigor mortis by 1 p.m. And so if she screamed somewhere between 12 and 1, if she screamed somewhere between 12 and 2, but she was in rigor mortis for 12 hours, full rigor mortis at 1 p.m., then the timeline, she had to die between she had to die between midnight and 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. I'm sorry, 1 a.m. And so she screams somewhere around midnight, and that's when everything goes down. And so then he leaves her 10 minutes, say at 12:05, she screams, he does something crazy, goes away for 5-10 minutes, comes back. By this time it's 12:15. If that's the case, it's 12:15. And then he starts the staging process. He comes up, he's like, man, what I do. Somebody broke in, what I do, throw him off my trail. Okay. So now he goes and he goes upstairs and he's comfortable enough to sit in the kitchen because he knows nobody's going to be coming downstairs. And so he takes 30 minutes. And so by the time he stages for probably about 20-30 minutes. He has to stage for about 20-30 minutes. And so, because he has to go around finding things, thinking quick what I want to do, but time flies. So time is still going to go by. You got to catch your breath. You're huffing and puffing, sweating. And from there, it's 12:15, 12:20, and now it's 12:50. It's about 12:50, almost 1 in the morning. And almost 1 in the morning. And it's almost 1 in the morning. Then so almost 1 in the morning. If that's the case, he goes upstairs at 12:50 and he's looking around for something to write on. He's looking around. Looks around for about 10 minutes. And it's, 5 minutes. It's now 1 o'clock in the morning and it takes him about 30 minutes. So it's like 1:30 in the morning. And he writes it, sets it on the stairs, and then goes back downstairs to, I guess he runs upstairs to the second floor and grabs the cover out of the dryer up there, grabs the cover because he knew it was going to be there because whoever did laundry earlier. So they go and grab the cover and come back downstairs and, they go to sort of wrap JonBenét in this cover. But if that was the case, man, If she was originally wrapped in the cover, then there would have been on the cover that they should have tested, or they should have saw urine stains. They should have been able to see like urine stains on the cover, but they didn't. So she wasn't wrapped in that cover before, which brings me back to like, why was there no concrete residue or carpet residue on her body? Because we know that they wiped her down below the belt. We know they wiped her down. Somebody wiped her down below the belt. Man, I estimate all this moving around with the going in the cover, because it's like 1:30 at this point. They jump up, they go get the cover. They're wiping her down. They're changing her clothes, because she was put in a red shirt and like some pajama pants. And so they went and changed her shirt at least. So they're kind of changing her clothes again. And from there, they've now dragged her face down toward the wine cellar, or they've dragged her toward the wine cellar of some sort, or maybe it even happened toward the wine cellar, where she was face down toward the wine cellar. It's possible that she didn't get dragged. It's possible that it did happen toward the wine cellar, because there was the big urine spot toward the wine cellar. So if either she got picked up and moved and placed in front of the wine cellar, or it happened in front of the wine cellar, because the big spot, it doesn't show spottiness up to the wine cellar. It shows that big glob in front of the wine cellar. And so from there, they drag her in. But I think they get her in the wine cellar, and they go get the cover. Then they go get the cover and bring it back down and put her on the cover. But on top of the cover is where they wipe her down, her entire lower body. They wipe it down. Because she urinated right here. So whatever she did, whatever happened, she had to go down face first, for the urine to flow out at that spot. And she had to be left there for it to sort of, kind of just, take hold right there. But no investigator, or, because that was a pretty big stain. No investigator or detective said, it smells like pee over here. Like, no one. The things that should have been there, no one said anything about, which makes me think that though there was urine that had happened there, either that was blood or that was urine. And if that's urine, then they wipe that up. They clean it up to wipe away the smell. And then they cleaned her lower body and her feet and everything to wipe away the smell, which would have been able to wipe away. And if you change the clothes completely, and you wipe her body down, then the residue won't be because she's not wearing the same clothes. The residue will not be there, but she had to be wearing those clothes because she urinated in them. And so whatever she was changed into, she urinated in. When they brought her to whatever and kind of laid her down, maybe picked her up, maybe like dragged her like this or something like that, and then kind of like laid her down to her face down to where she urinated, and then something like that. And then dragged her in there, wiped her down, kind of wiped everything off. And then, because I wonder why you would need to wipe her off unless there were like particles and stuff like that. And so now I go get the cover, put her on top of the cover, wrap her up, lay her down gently, and kind of wait for anything to happen. I estimate all of that probably would be around, that'd probably be about 45 minutes to do all of that after. So we're talking about 2:15 in the morning, 2:15 in the morning or something like that. Forgot your backpack because you left in a rush. What else am I forgetting that they had to do in the house? So I estimate that this person got out of the house, if there was an intruder, they got out of the house probably around 2:15, 2:30 in the morning. Patsy wakes up 3 hours later and comes down and finds that JonBenét is missing. Yeah, that would need to be the case. So just kind of talking through that theory. I know this video was going to be about this, but I'll kind of separate it so that it makes more sense. But it's just kind of getting me closer to my thoughts on how this happened, like what happened. I was listening to some of I think the Zell brothers or something like that. Listening to, I think you guys sent me Tesmosis, and the kind of the research is kind of overlaps in what they do. So I'm listening to their research and just taking some notes about what they say, and I guess I'll present something on that at some point. But it doesn't make it easier because it's like you don't really know who did this. The only thing that really sticks it is that, from what I understand about the autopsy report, it wasn't a human body part connected to JonBenét. It was, I know we talked about the chronic stuff, but I don't understand it to have been a human body part. I understand it to have been wood particles. And so that's a little different from what's being described by them. That's my only thing. It's like, yes, if we were talking about a human individual getting what they were trying to get, but these were like wood particles according to some resources. So it's not like it's not even the ritual anymore. It's like a cruel trick, a cruel action that's happening. That's what I'm saying. And that I don't think that has, from what was being described, I don't think that has anything to do using wood on the children during the events. I don't think that was mentioned. So that's one of my biggest hesitancies about the theory. So like I said, man, I'll stop it there. It's just a little chat about how things could have unraveled, just sort of thinking out loud, and I guess wanted to share that with you. But I'll stay on track in the next video. But anyways, till next time, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and take it easy.